The galaxy celebrated. Every council world lit its skies with fireworks. Every allied fleet paraded through space, shining bright with banners of victory. They cheered, they drank, they danced in the light of their supposed triumph. To them, the Dominion was gone. Its warships shattered, its commander in chains, its empire burned into dust. But in the silence between the stars, shadows moved. The humans did not celebrate. They did not raise banners or light their skies. Earth had learned too many times that when the galaxy claimed peace, war always waited behind the curtain. And this time, the curtain felt thinner than ever. Admiral Reyes stood in the command hall, of Earth's orbital defense. The room was dark, filled with only the glow of maps and scattered red dots on the holographic screen. His officers sat tense, their eyes locked on the intercepted signals repeating again and again. "Play it back," Reyes ordered. The broken voice came once more, dragged from static and pain. "They are coming." The fall of the Dominion, not the end, only the beginning. The room felt colder each time they heard it. Officers shifted in their seats. No one dared to speak. Finally, Commander Ellis broke the silence. "Sir, it could be nothing. A false broadcast, the ramblings of a dying fleet." Reyes turned his sharp gaze on him. "And what if it's not?" The words sank deep. Because deep down they all knew. Empires did not burn this fast, this completely, without something greater behind the fire. On the Council's grand stage, the captured Xeran commander was displayed for all to see. Chains clanked as he was, dragged before the leaders of 12 proud species. His face was a mask of defiance, even as the councillors mocked him. "You are finished," one alien senator hissed. "Your empire is gone, and you are nothing." But the commander smiled, a broken, bloody smile that carried no fear. He raised his head and his voice carried through the chamber like poison. "You fools, you think you won a war, but you only cleared the path for what comes next." The chamber went still. The councillors looked at each other in unease. "What do you mean?" one demanded. The commander's chains rattled as he leaned forward. His eyes gleamed like dying stars. "You didn't defeat us. We were running. We were hiding. We fell because they found us. And now you—" He scanned the chamber slowly. "You will burn as we did," gasps echoed. Guards struck him down, silencing his words with a blow. The council dismissed his claims as madness, but the recording of that speech reached Earth. And Earth did not dismiss it. On Earth's moon, base technicians replayed the audio again and again. On orbital stations, scientists analyzed the pauses in his words, the tone of his voice, the weight behind every syllable. And in bunkers beneath the Earth's surface, soldiers whispered among themselves. If the Dominion, the most feared empire in the galaxy, was running, what could make them run? The Council ignored the signs. They poured credits into rebuilding, into rewriting history, into painting murals of their own strength. They spoke of a golden era. They laughed at Earth when human envoys quietly asked questions about other dangers. "Paranoid primates," one councillor scoffed. "They think too much of themselves," another sneered. "They should be grateful we even let them attend our council halls." But humanity was not blind. Humanity was not deaf. Far from Earth, in the black silence of the Kuiper Belt, a shipyard stirred. The hulls of massive vessels lay hidden in the ice, engines dormant, but waiting. Silent fleets, built not for parades but for survival. The humans had never trusted the galaxy's promises of peace, and now those fleets would wake. Admiral Reyes stood before the viewing glass of the Lunar Command Tower. Beyond the glass, Earth glowed blue against the void. His voice was calm, but his words heavy. "The Council will not listen. They never do. But if that commander's warning is true, then the galaxy is already in danger. And we are the only ones who believe." His second-in-command nodded grimly. "Do we prepare the fleet?" Reyes closed his eyes for a moment, then whispered, "Wake them." And across Earth's hidden bases, alarms began to sound. Deep in bunkers, engines rumbled awake. Massive ships lifted their heads like sleeping giants stirred from dreams. Their steel bones groaned, their reactors pulsed, and their guns turned silently toward the stars. Alien scanners picked it up within minutes. A surge of energy from Earth's sector, more powerful than anything the humans had ever shown before. Reports flooded the council, but instead of concern, laughter filled the chamber. Humans building weapons again? Ha! They throw rocks. They play war. Let them waste their resources. But somewhere in the shadows, not all were laughing. Smaller empires, merchants, even smugglers who survived on the edges of war, they watched Earth carefully. Because they knew what it meant when a species moved in silence, preparing for something unseen. And far away in a ruined Zyran system, survivors huddled in dark stations. Their voices shook as they whispered to each other, "They don't know. The galaxy doesn't know, but the humans, they heard. They will be ready." In the council chambers, the Zyran commander was dragged back to his cell, bleeding but smiling. The guards mocked him, cursed him, struck him again. But he only laughed. Low and hollow. "Fools," he whispered. "You think your victory means survival, but you will learn fear soon enough." And on Earth, a single warship left dock. Its engines roared into the void, leaving trails of fire across the stars, silent, ruthless, prepared. The galaxy thought the war was over. The galaxy thought peace had come, but humanity was already moving. The galaxy watched in silence. Every screen, every broadcast, every long-range scanner was locked on the same sight, the fall of a once mighty empire. The stars above their worlds burned with wreckage, fleets shattered into dust, and whole cities below turned into silent graves. For centuries, the Zyran Dominion had ruled with terror. Their fleets were known as storms of fire, their commanders feared like gods. And yet now the Dominion was nothing but smoke and ruin. The enemy that had come against them had not just defeated them, it had erased them. In the center of the chaos, one figure stood out. The Zyran commander, once called the Voice of Fear, now dragged in chains. His armor was torn, his face stained with blood and ash. He had led billions into war, but his voice shook as guards pushed him forward. The galaxy gasped. Never before had they seen him powerless. The Galactic Council gathered to watch the transmission. 12 species filled the chamber, their eyes shining with relief. For them, the war was over. The Dominion was broken, its fleets burned, its commander was captured. "This is the end," one counselor whispered. "Peace at last," said another. They all agreed. Finally, silence had returned to the galaxy. But silence was a lie. Far away, Earth listened. The humans had not been part of the Great War. They had been ignored, mocked as a backwater world too young and too primitive to matter. The Council never invited them to fight, never trusted them with secrets, never even considered them worth watching. Humanity was treated as a shadow in the corner of the galaxy, yet in the quiet rooms of Earth's defense networks, alarms whispered, messages intercepted, broken signals carried by desperate survivors of the Zyran fall. Warnings half buried in static, and in those signals, Earth heard something the rest of the galaxy ignored. The war was not finished. Beneath the mountains of Earth, in chambers built of steel and silence, admirals gathered. Their faces were grim, their voices low. On the table before them played the intercepted footage. The captured Zyran commander, dragged through ash, his eyes still burned, not with pride, but with a terrible kind of warning. "He looks like a beaten man," one officer muttered. "No," said another, shaking his head. "He looks like someone who knows what's coming next." Above the skies of Earth, orbital platforms turned slowly, their lights flickering in readiness. In shipyards hidden far beyond the moon, metal giants slept waiting for orders. Humanity did not laugh. They did not cheer at the fall of the Dominion. They prepared. Meanwhile, the Council celebrated, their chambers filled with speeches of victory. Statues were raised, banners were hung. They spoke of peace, of rebuilding, of a new golden age. To them, the galaxy was safe. To them, the enemy was gone. But on one quiet channel, a voice crackled, weak, broken, filled with static. It was a transmission from deep space, barely heard, almost lost. A plea not meant for the Council, but caught by human receivers. "They are coming." The fall of the Dominion was not the end. It was only the beginning. The words froze the human admirals in silence. The signal died. No one else heard it, or if they did, they dismissed it. The Council believed in peace, but Earth had lived too many centuries knowing that peace never lasted. The captured commander was dragged before the Council, his chains heavy, his shoulders low. The chamber echoed with prideful voices mocking him, declaring victory. "You are broken," one councillor sneered. "Your empire is ash," said another. The commander lifted his head, his voice quiet, his eyes hollow. "You think this is over?" he whispered. "You think the fire has died?" The chamber went silent. The council laughed nervously, brushing aside his words. But on Earth, when that recording played across human screens, no one laughed. Soldiers shifted uneasily. Officers clenched their fists. Scientists whispered to each other in cold fear, because in the commander's voice they heard truth. Earth knew something was coming, something worse than the Dominion, something strong enough to turn an empire of terror into a corpse. In the dark of orbit, a single human warship stirred. Its hull gleamed black against the stars, its engines silent but alive. One by one its systems lit up, like the opening eyes of a giant waking from sleep. The galaxy thought the war was over. The Council thought peace had returned, but humanity did not believe in lies. Across the void, alien scanners suddenly twitched. A massive energy spike flared from Earth's sector. No announcement, no warning. Just the unmistakable sign of a weapon waking. The Council ignored it, but those who saw it, those who understood, they felt their blood run cold. Humanity was preparing, and the galaxy had no idea what was about to begin. The galaxy slept in its false peace. Cities rebuilt, trade routes reopened, and council leaders praised themselves for their bravery. Statues were raised of politicians who never saw the battlefield, and speeches filled the air about a new age of unity. But Earth was not celebrating. Deep beneath the ice of forgotten moons, inside the metal ribs of hollowed asteroids, and hidden under oceans on secret colonies, something old and quiet began to stir. Engines that had not fired in years suddenly woke. Massive reactors hummed in the dark, their vibrations rolling through stone and water. Soldiers who had lived their whole lives in silence walked into armories lined with weapons not seen by any other species. Hand shipyards buried so deep no alien eye had ever found them began to open like steel flowers, releasing giants into the void. This was the Silent Fleet. For decades, Earth had built it in secret, not for power, not for glory, but because humans had learned the oldest lesson of all: peace never lasts. While other species trusted in the Council, humanity trusted only in preparation. Admiral Reyes stood on the command deck of the Resolute, the first warship to leave its hidden berth. Before him, the fleet slowly revealed itself, one ship after another emerging from black tunnels and icy caves. Frigates, destroyers, carriers, ships so large they could eclipse a city in their shadow. Each one bore no banners, no painted colors, only black steel and glowing engines, silent and cold. Commander Ellis stepped beside him, eyes wide as the fleet spread across the star map. "My God, how many did we build?" Reyes did not blink. His voice was low, steady, dangerous. "Enough to fight a war no one else believes is coming." The news of sudden human fleet activity spread fast. Merchant vessels on the outer rim reported seeing strange silhouettes blocking the stars. Independent traders whispered of giant shadows moving in the Kuiper Belt. Even smugglers told stories of ships without names, ships that carried death in silence. The Council laughed, of course. "Humans and their paranoia," said one elder. "They build fleets because they think shadows are enemies," another mocked. "What will they do with rocks and bullets against real weapons?" But not everyone laughed. The smaller empires, the scavengers who lived close to the edge of destruction, watched Earth carefully. They had survived the fall of the Dominion. They had seen whole star systems burned away, and they knew no one laughed when humans prepared for war. Far away in the Council's prison cells, the captured Zyran commander listened as the guard spoke about Earth's strange movements. His broken face twisted into a smile. "They know," he whispered. The guard spat at him, telling him to be silent. But he only chuckled darkly. "They are the only ones who are not blind." Back on Earth's moon base, rows of pilots lined up, their faces grim. Most were young, some barely more than recruits, but every one of them carried the same fire in their eyes. They had grown up in silence, trained without parades, armed without praise. And now, for the first time, they would fly. Do not think of glory, their instructor told them. Do not think of victory. Think only of survival, because what comes next is not war, it is extinction. The fleet expanded quickly. Ships that had slept for years joined with new builds, and within weeks hundreds of warships surrounded Earth. They did not patrol. They did not broadcast. They simply waited, engines burning cold, weapons locked, silent as the grave. Alien scanners picked up fragments of their movements. Outposts near Earth's system reported strange readings, energy spikes, unusual magnetic waves, unknown hull signatures. Reports reached the Council. And once again, the Council dismissed them. Humans are children playing soldier, one senator said. Let them build their toys. They will collapse under the cost of it, another added. But the laughter faded when one fact became undeniable. Earth's fleet was larger than any fleet the Council had ever seen. One by one, frightened envoys arrived at Council meetings, voices shaking. Our scouts have counted over 300 ships in human space, said one. More than 500, corrected another. No, more than 700, whispered a third. The chamber fell silent, and then came the rumors. Rumors of a weapon unlike anything the galaxy had faced. Not plasma, not lasers, something older, something deadlier. A weapon the humans had whispered about for years but never shown. They called it the railgun. At first the Council dismissed it as primitive, but then the scans came in. Spikes of energy so high they shattered old prediction models, metallic shells so massive they dwarfed missiles, and whispers that a single shot could pierce through shields and armor alike. Panic began to spread. What if humanity was not preparing for an imagined war? What if they had seen something the rest of the galaxy refused to believe? In the shadowed Council cell, the Zyran commander laughed again, his voice echoing down the cold halls. They mock you, he said to the guards. They laugh at Earth, just as they laughed at us. But soon you will understand. Soon you will all beg them for protection. And in the black of space, far from the Council's sight, the first test was prepared. Admiral Reyes stood before his officers on the Resolute. Today, he said, the galaxy will hear us. Not in words, not in diplomacy, but in thunder. The railgun chamber glowed with power, coils sparking as they charged. A massive slug was loaded, silent but deadly, aimed at a distant asteroid the size of a city. The officers held their breath. The countdown began. 3, 2, 1. The void shook. The slug tore forward faster than light, slicing through space like a blade. In seconds, the asteroid shattered into dust, fragments glowing as they burned into nothingness. Alien scanners across half the sector picked it up instantly. Alarms blared. Messages flooded the Council. And, for the first time since the Dominion fell, every empire felt something they had not felt in centuries. Fear. The galaxy was no longer laughing. The destruction of the asteroid was replayed on thousands of alien news networks. A single human railgun shot had turned a city-sized rock into dust. The explosion lit the void brighter than a star. Shockwaves of energy rippled so far that mining stations 3 systems away had picked up the vibrations. Every empire saw it. Every commander felt it. And every ruler asked the same question. What if that weapon was pointed at us? On the Council floor, the chamber that once roared with mocking laughter now echoed only with silence. Screens showed the human test firing again and again, captured by alien drones and scanners. The slug's velocity was calculated, the power measured, the effect undeniable. It cannot be real, one senator whispered. No kinetic weapon can breach shields, another insisted, though his voice shook. A scientist stood, her claws trembling as she pointed to the readings. The human slug traveled at a fraction of light speed. No shield in existence reacts fast enough to stop that. The energy is too much. If it hits a ship... She stopped, her throat tight. There will be nothing left to save. The Council erupted into chaos. Some demanded sanctions against Earth. Others screamed for immediate negotiations. A few whispered the darkest thought of all. Perhaps humanity should be destroyed before the weapon was used against them. But one voice cut through the noise. It came not from a senator, not from a politician, but from the council's prison. The Zyran commander, still chained, still beaten, demanded to speak. His request was laughed at first, then ignored, but the humans forced it. When Earth's ambassador stepped into the chamber, he held the order in his hand. "Let him speak," the ambassador said coldly. "He was our enemy," spat one elder. "He saw what you refused to see," the human replied. The doors opened, and the alien commander entered still bound, chains dragging across the polished floor. His face was scarred, but his eyes burned with a fire that silenced even the council. "You fools," he hissed. "You think this railgun is the threat? No, the threat is why it was built." The chamber froze. Every eye turned toward him. Vice through. Dominion fell because of arrogance. And you, every single one of you, are repeating their mistake. You believe victory is yours, that the galaxy is safe. But listen to me. Something else is coming. My people saw it before you destroyed us. And now the humans see it too. Whispers spread through the chamber like fire. Something else? Another enemy? The human ambassador did not speak. He only watched, arms crossed, as the commander's words poisoned the council's confidence. "Look at them," the Zyran sneered, gesturing at the humans. "Do you not see they are not celebrating victory? They are preparing, they build fleets, not because they want war, but because they know war is not finished. And when the true enemy arrives, you will beg those same humans to save you." The guards dragged him away, but his laughter echoed across the chamber, long and chilling. Outside the council, fear spread faster than light. Civilian worlds panicked. Merchants diverted their trade routes away from Earth, afraid of becoming targets. Neighboring empires called emergency meetings. Armies that had gone quiet after the Dominion's fall now scrambled to expand their defenses. But nothing could erase the truth. Humanity's fleet was already larger, already awake, already waiting. Admiral Reyes stood on the bridge of the Resolute, watching as more ships joined formation. Carriers the size of cities, destroyers bristling with railgun barrels, cruisers with armor so thick even plasma cannons could barely dent them. The fleet's silence was more terrifying than open threats. They did not broadcast messages. They did not declare war. They did not demand tribute. They only gathered dark shapes in the void, their weapons hungry and ready. Commander Ellis approached him, her face pale. "Admiral, the Council demands a meeting. They say we must explain the test." Reyes did not turn. His eyes remained on the stars. "Explain," he said coldly. "There is nothing to explain. We fired once and the galaxy understood." Ellis swallowed hard. "Some believe we plan to strike first." Reyes's lips curved into the faintest smile. "Then let them believe. Fear is the shield of the wise." Far away, on a civilian mining station near the rim, panic became reality. An unknown signal appeared on scanners. At first it looked like debris. Then the readings shifted. It was not debris. It was a fleet. Ships the miners had never seen before. Ships larger than anything in their records. Ships with jagged armor and engines that pulsed like living hearts. The miners sent out distress calls, begging the Council for aid. But before any reply came, the signals went dark. When investigators arrived days later, the station was gone. Not destroyed, gone. Only fragments of twisted metal floated where it once had been. Whispers began to spread. Perhaps the Zyran commander was not lying. Perhaps something worse was coming. On Earth, the fleet waited. Admiral Reyes received the report in silence. He handed the datapad back to his officer, his face unreadable. Then, finally, he spoke. "Tell the crews. Double readiness, no ship stands down, not now." Ellis frowned. "Admiral, are we preparing for the Council or for something else?" Reyes's eyes narrowed as he stared at the stars, his voice low, almost a growl. "For both." In the Council chambers, alarms blared as a new report arrived. The mining station was gone. The unknown fleet sighted, the whispers spreading like wildfire. And in the silence of space, the human fleet moved into new positions. One by one, the railguns began to glow again, their coils sparking as they charged. Not for another test this time, but for war. The galaxy did not sleep. Every network, every channel, every transmission carried the same words. The humans are moving. Across countless alien worlds, leaders met in panic. Fleets scrambled into formation. Armies were rushed to borders. But even as the galaxy trembled, humanity stayed silent. Their fleet drifted through the void like shadows, their massive warships moving with perfect precision. They made no threats, no promises, no demands. That silence was worse than war itself, but silence always breaks. It began on the edge of the rim where the mining station had vanished. Patrol fleets from 3 different empires rushed to investigate, desperate to uncover what had destroyed the colony. Their scanners picked up something. At first it looked like asteroids. Then the objects changed course, moving against gravity, powered by engines none had ever seen. The alien patrols raised shields, weapons charged, and then, without warning, the unknown fleet opened fire. There were no energy beams, no plasma bolts. Only lances of red light, sharp as blades, slicing through the void. Entire patrol ships split in half before they could react. Hulls crumbled like paper. Crews screamed for help, but the Council was too far and Earth remained silent. Within minutes, 3 fleets were gone, not damaged, not retreating, gone. The first whispers spread. The old enemy was not finished. The Dominion's death had been a lie. Something darker, stronger had survived, and it was hungry. On Earth's flagship Resolute, alarms filled the bridge. Reports of the attack streamed in. Admiral Reyes stood with his hands clasped behind his back, his jaw tight. Commander Ellis slammed a datapad onto the table. "That's 3 fleets, Admiral, wiped out before they could even respond. The Council is calling for immediate action. They're demanding our fleet moves." Reyes's voice was calm, almost cold. "And what does the Council offer us in return?" Ellis blinked. "Sir, billions of lives are at stake. Are we really going to wait?" Reyes turned to face her, his eyes like steel. "Do you think the Council would hesitate to sacrifice Earth if it meant saving themselves? No. They left us to die once before, never again." The bridge fell silent. The weight of his words settled on every officer. Humanity remembered its past. The days when Earth had been mocked, ignored, abandoned. Not anymore. And yet deep inside, Reyes knew the truth. The galaxy might not survive this war without Earth. "Ready the fleet," he finally said. His voice was steady, but his eyes betrayed the fire burning inside. "If the enemy is moving, so will we." The human fleet jumped. Thousands of ships tore through the void, their drives burning white-hot, leaving trails across the stars. Carriers unfolded like wings, releasing swarms of smaller craft. Destroyers aligned their railguns, barrels glowing. Battleships took position, their armor plates shifting like shields of ancient giants. They arrived in silence. The battlefield was already a graveyard. Wreckage of alien ships floated like corpses, drifting endlessly through space. Fires burned in the void, oxygen hissing from shattered hulls, and waiting among the debris. The unknown fleet. Their ships were monstrous, black, jagged, alive with pulsing veins of red energy. They moved like predators, circling slowly, hunting. Their weapons glowed faintly, still wet with blood. The humans saw them, and the enemy saw humans. No words were exchanged, no calls for surrender, no diplomacy. The clash began with light. The first railgun fired. The slug tore through the void at impossible speed, hitting one of the black ships dead center. Shields flared, tried to resist, and shattered instantly. The impact tore straight through, ripping the ship in half. It exploded. "In silence, a flower of fire blooming in the dark," the enemy replied. Beams of red light slashed toward the human fleet. A destroyer took a direct hit, its armor glowing white-hot, tearing open, atmosphere venting. Dozens of humans screamed as they were sucked into space. "Target acquired!" Ellis shouted from the Resolute's bridge. "Fire again!" Reyes commanded. Another railgun blast. Another enemy ship destroyed, then another, then another. The humans fought with precision. No wasted shots, no wasted movements. Every railgun slug was death, every impact final. But the enemy was relentless. Their beams carved through space, slicing ships apart. A human carrier groaned as a red lance tore through its hangars, vaporizing hundreds of fighters before they could launch. The void was chaos. Explosions, twisted hulls, flashing lights of weapons, and yet the humans never faltered. Admiral Reyes stood firm, eyes locked on the battlefield. "Steady," he said, voice calm even as death swirled around. Let them come, let them see. And the galaxy was watching. Thousands of alien observers recorded the battle from distant systems, too afraid to intervene, but too desperate to look away. They saw what no one had believed possible: humanity, with nothing but kinetic weapons, standing against monsters that had torn through fleets like paper. For every human ship destroyed, 2 enemy vessels fell. For every scream in the void, Earth's railguns answered louder. Still, the battle grew worse. "Admiral," Ellis cried, "enemy reinforcements incoming, dozens more signatures." On the scanners, new red shapes appeared, emerging from the void like predators smelling blood. The first wave had only been a fraction of their strength. The true fleet was arriving now. The bridge crew froze. Some whispered prayers. Some clenched their fists. All eyes turned to Reyes. The Admiral did not blink. His voice was steady, firm, unshakable. "Then we hold the line," Ellis's voice cracked. "Sir, there are too many. Then we show them what it means to fight humanity." Outside, the fleet reformed. Ships closed ranks, overlapping. Shields covering each other's flanks. Carriers repositioned, launching what fighters they had left. The railguns began to charge again, barrels glowing brighter than suns. And for a moment, just a moment, the galaxy held its breath. Would humanity fall here, crushed by the swarm? Or would their silence turn into something the galaxy had never seen before? The enemy ships lit up with red. The human railguns burned white, and the stars themselves seemed to shake, waiting for the collision. The galaxy had never seen such a sky. On the battlefield, wreckage floated like broken bones. Alien ships, once feared, burned in silence, their hulls cracked open like eggshells. Human ships drifted among them, battered but still alive. Sparks lit the void like dying stars. And still the enemy came. The Black Fleet was endless. Reinforcements poured from the dark like shadows tearing through the stars. Jagged hulls, glowing veins of red, their weapons pulsing as if alive. For every one ship destroyed, 2 more appeared. The observers across the galaxy whispered the same words. "It's over. No fleet can survive that. Not even humans." On the bridge of the Resolute, Admiral Reyes stood with arms behind his back. His face was calm, but his crew could see the strain in his eyes. The scanners showed red filling the void. It looked like drowning. Commander Ellis's voice cracked. "Admiral, we can't hold this line. They'll tear us apart." Reyes did not move. He looked at the storm, at the black ships swarming closer. His words came slow, sharp, and unshakable. "Then we won't hold the line." Ellis blinked. "Sir?" Reyes turned, his voice suddenly heavy like thunder. "We'll break it." Across the fleet, orders flashed. Every ship shifted formation. Carriers moved behind the battleships. Destroyers spread like wolves. The great railguns began to glow, charging brighter than suns. The enemy ships surged, forward, confident, merciless. Their red beams sliced toward the humans. But this time the humans did not wait. The first volley fired. Hundreds of railgun slugs ripped through space at impossible speed. They tore through the black ships like paper. Hulls split open. Red lights sputtered and died. The shockwave lit. The void like a second dawn. But the enemy did not stop. More came. The second volley fired. Slugs the size of towers streaked across the void. Enemy ships shattered, debris spinning into the dark. The void shook. The railguns roared like gods. Still, the swarm pressed closer. Human shields flared and cracked. A destroyer was cut apart. A carrier burned, spilling fighters into the void. Humanity bled, but it did not break. And then, something happened. Deep inside Earth's fleet, an ancient signal activated. Buried. Code, written long before the Council ever mocked humanity. The Resolute systems flashed red. Reyes looked at the words forming on his console. Project Black Sky, authorized. For a moment the bridge was silent. Then Reyes gave a Single nod. Do it. The fleet shifted. Massive panels on the largest human battleships began to slide open. What emerged made even the humans hold their breath. They weren't missiles, they weren't fighters. They were rods. Enormous, solid, dense metal rods. Kinetic weapons, simple and brutal. Ellis's eyes widened. Sir, those aren't warheads. Reyes's voice was grim. No, there's something worse. The rods fired. No fire, no light, just silent death. They streaked across the void, invisible to scanners, unstoppable by shields. And when they struck, entire enemy ships folded in on themselves, crushed as if the universe itself had turned against them. The rods did not explode. They simply tore holes in reality wherever they landed. The enemy fleet broke. For the first time, the black ships faltered. They pulled back, scattering, their perfect formations ruined. The swarm hesitated, and in that hesitation, humanity struck again. All ships, Reyes commanded, his voice like iron. Final barrage. The railguns roared. The rods fell. The void became fire. Enemy ships burst apart in chains of explosions. Their beams flickered, died. Their numbers thinned, their courage cracked. The swarm that had once seemed endless was now broken, fleeing into the shadows of space. The galaxy watched in silence. Billions of eyes, billions of minds could only stare at the sight. Humanity, the weak, the mocked, the forgotten, had stood against the dark and won. On the Council's world, alien leaders could not speak. Their jaws trembled, their hands shook. They had laughed at humanity once, now they saw the truth. Earth had not just built weapons, Earth had built judgment. On the battlefield, as the last enemy ship burned, Ellis whispered what the entire galaxy was now thinking. They were afraid of the wrong empire. Reyes did not answer. He stood tall, watching the flames die in the void. His silence was the answer. Humanity did not need to boast. The galaxy had already heard their roar. But the story did not end there. As salvage crews moved across the wreckage, humans recovered something. From the twisted hull of an enemy flagship, they pulled out a single survivor. A commander, scarred, still alive, still snarling even in defeat. The alien was dragged in chains onto the Resolute's bridge, forced to kneel. The crew stared. This was the monster who had burned worlds. This was the shadow that had terrified the galaxy. And now, he was nothing. Reyes looked down at him, his voice calm, steady. Tell your masters, humanity has arrived, and we are not afraid. The alien spat blood, his eyes burning with hatred. But he said nothing. Silence filled the bridge. Heavy. Final. The galaxy thought the war was over. They thought hope had died. But when Earth's fleet arrived, the truth became clear. Hope had not died. Hope had been waiting. Waiting in silence. Waiting in steel, waiting in humanity. And now the galaxy knew fear.